We're live.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Chris Baker.
And I'm Ty Backer.
Welcome to episode 158 of Behind the Toolbelt with TC Backer Construction.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. TC Backer, TC Backer.
Behind the Tool Belt is sponsored by Lead Scout. Find out more at leadscoutapp.com.
TC Backer, TC Backer.
TC Backer family, what is going on? Hopefully everyone is having a very good week. You had a happy new year. You had a Merry Christmas. We got a very special guest today. First off, before I introduce her, Tyrus, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Excellent, man. We got a live studio audience tonight.
Yes, we do.
We got the boys from Lead Scout that came in. They're actually live in studio for the first time. Well, this isn't Chris's first time, but Joe, I actually got to meet Joe in person today, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We got Mike Ippoliti. Formerly Job Progress, Mike Ippoliti. Now he's TC Backer, Mike Ippoliti.
Yeah, and Zach.
Yeah, Diet Do.
Yeah, Diet Do. So anyone that knows Mike Ippoliti, his new nickname is Diet Do.
Diet Do.
He's the only guy that I know that drinks Diet Red Bull. But it's like a pounder, like 16 ounce.
Yeah, man.
Pounder of Diet Red Bull, total oxymoron.
Got that quarter pounder with the Diet Coke. Baby.
So Diet Do's his new nickname, and then my nephew Zach, who was in the house. Hopefully,
he's back there. He's back there. You got all kinds of camera equipment in your way, man. You can't see him.
Yeah, but anyhow, yeah.
So, and the most important guest here, we have April Hall, president of the SRC Summit, in here, amongst many other things, accolades that you have done in your career. April, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to be on this tonight.
Yes.
Excellent.
We're very excited too. That's why everybody, like Chris and Joe, flew in here from Michigan to sit live in the studio to listen to your story. They're super excited to get to know you, and Chris and Joe perhaps maybe will be at SRC with us. So we're looking forward to that. And I know we're super stoked to have you here because I know last year Glenn and I came down to visit you in Dallas last year, and it was such a phenomenal show. We got so much out of it. There was so much great content. We learned so much. I still have videos, pictures, notes, things that we've implemented in our company and our systems today. We can thank you for that because there was just so much good content, so many great speakers, and I know we're super excited to have you here and find out like what's new this year. But before we get into all of that, man, I think Chris, you probably got some really deep questions that you want to kind of get a little backstory on April and find out how she kind of got where she's at today and some of the trials and tribulations that she's going through.
Yes.
Before she got here.
Yeah. So let's just kick it off, man. Let's just jump right into it. So I did read a little bit about you. And I know that, you grew up with a family that was kind of in the trades, and tell me about that. Tell me how you got started in that growing up.
Yeah. So construction's really always been, I guess, in my blood, you can say. I grew up with that. Family does custom built homes, spec homes. And so that's just kind of been my life, growing up in the industry, going to the job sites, seeing the behind the scenes of, all the paperwork and what it takes to, sign a contract to build a home to completion and put on the sites myself. I've actually built several homes as well. But, like even when I was a little girl, I'd read blueprints with my dad for fun. So
Right.
that construction was like, okay, it's not new to me. It's always who I've been. Right.
Right.
And so,
That's awesome.
yeah. So, it didn't scare me when I got into the roofing industry. So I actually started in the roofing industry when I was in college. I met my business partner, and we just said, hey, let's open it up. There was a hailstorm to work, and so we just went to work and actually did a lot of residential, but I did commercial as well. And so
Gotcha.
new construction was like easy for me because I knew like from the build up, and so that made more sense to me. So I actually did commercial construction when I was in college, and then as I was doing it, I was learning the insurance game at the time. So.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. And that's
Absolutely.
such an extensive background too. And I can we can appreciate the new construction game because today we still do a lot of new construction, along with remodeling, retail, a little bit of storm restoration, not much insurance work up here in Pennsylvania, but we do try to take advantage of that when we can, if and when a storm does come through, but mostly wind damage, and light commercial, like you were speaking of. And so we've kind of like, evolved into just like a construction company that we can pretty much tackle anything. So I can appreciate the background, the extensive, background that you have in the construction trade and stuff. So like when you guys were building homes and stuff like that, because that intrigues me, right? It takes a special kind of person to build homes. And you were talking about spec homes and things
custom
like that.
homes, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Spec and custom homes and stuff like that. So who would you say, I guess, was like your biggest competition back then, and how far back was that? Was that like the early 90s, 80s? Like when
I
was
was just growing up, right? And then I was more involved to like closer to like early college years, I guess. But it was family business, right? So
yeah, no, I love that.
So it's like we had our own like place to develop, and so just build them and sell them, and then also so we did a combination of spec homes and also custom built homes.
Okay.
And
Around
so,
what time frame was that? Was that pre-recession back in, the 2008s, or was that earlier 2000s, or
before that, yeah, right before
right
that.
before that?
So
So back,
I actually grew up in California, and then my family moved to Minnesota right before I went into high school. So I grew up when I was younger doing that in California, and then into Minnesota, like actually really learning the trades then. But it's very different because you're building basements there, and just the whole construction is completely different as you travel throughout the United States and different building codes, et cetera.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, things are definitely different in Florida compared to like Pennsylvania. And we've
Yeah.
found that out in different areas that we go to, like different codes,
Yes.
or licenses or permitting too, like in Delaware, right? So there's only 3 counties in Delaware. So you need to be licensed in every county plus the state. You got to have a state license, county license, and city licenses. So if there's 150 cities within the state of Delaware, there's probably way more than that, but you need a license per city as well. So, I mean, like you said, everything it
It's
changes.
different codes. I mean, building California, it's like thousands of dollars just to get a permit before you stick a shovel in the ground, right? It's those different. You got other things. You go to Texas, and it's kind of like the Wild West. We don't have any licensing here, which I disagree with, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So how does that work? I mean, without having a license, so that means pretty much anybody that has a truck, a ladder rack, and a ladder can be a contractor.
Unfortunately, yeah.
How do you think that has affected the industry in Texas?
Well, it affects it because you could be slinging pizzas the next day, and all of a sudden you could be like a roofing contractor, right? And, if you don't have proper training, it really hurts the industry. So you get a lot of people, and it's happened over the years where they waive deductibles and just do shoddy work, and it leaves a bad taste in the mouth for the homeowner, the customer, and also it doesn't help the industry. So really that's like one of the reasons I set out too, is to, bring integrity to the industry and help train people the right way so that you can have longevity in the industry and like actually deliver a great product and service to your customer.
Mhm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'd imagine, I can't imagine that has any benefits to the industry whatsoever. Unfortunately, you get one bad apple, it's going to ruin it for the next 10 to 15 honest guys that come knock on that
Yeah.
door after that.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, you get burned once by a contractor. I mean, you're never going to forget that. So
Right.
it
And
just
so, I mean,
sucks.
licensing's good. I mean, everybody kind of complains about, all the different red tape, but some red tape is really good. It makes
Yeah.
people be accountable and it,
Mhm.
it works for both sides. So
Yeah.
I'm for licensing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So you were talking about, there was a storm. So was that in California or was that in Texas when the storm came through?
What storm?
I
When you were
thought,
in college,
yeah.
that
Oh, no,
made,
that was in Oklahoma when there was a storm that happened. So
Okay.
I was in college there. Yeah.
So
We don't,
was that your first experience with roofing, I
that
guess?
was yes, that was my first experience. I mean, you go from construction into insurance claims, it's completely different. There's a huge learning curve in order to do that successfully. So I learned it then and kind of grew with it. So yeah, but that was in Oklahoma, and as you know, they get a lot of storms.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. So you got in the roofing industry when you were in college. So how long, so did you start a roofing business at that time?
Yeah, that's exactly when we started. So
Okay. And you say we, who's the we?
the we is actually my ex-husband. So we
Okay.
started that together. Yep. Worked it for a
Okay.
few years and then went back into construction for a little bit and really got back into roofing because we loved it so much.
Right
yeah.
on.
Do you currently own a roofing company?
No.
No. Gotcha. Gotcha. Was there ever a time that you did the new construction plus, other models involved? Like Ty was touching on earlier, how we do it up here. We have, a really, really large presence in new construction, and we kind of use that as our vehicle to do other things. But did you do the same thing, or did you just kind of, focus everything into new construction and then maybe take a break from that and focus into storm chasing, or how'd that work out?
For the most part, after we got started, it was just a lot of storm chasing,
Gotcha.
mostly residential, tiny bit of commercial,
Gotcha.
really all over.
Yeah. That's really interesting, man. That's really interesting.
It is.
Yeah. So after I guess you got out of the roofing industry, how did you end up the president of the SRC Summit? Like how does that all work out?
There's a story to that too. So after working a few storms, we really saw, working with different companies and just working in the industry, really saw the same type of training model, which is, hey, ride in the car with, whoever it is, maybe the manager or somebody who's been in the industry a few months longer than you have, or a few years, who knows, and kind of shadow them for a couple, 3 days. And then now you're qualified to be a roofing salesperson, right? Well, as we all know, there's a lot more to it than that, right? I mean, for the most part, when you look at it, somebody's home, if you're restoring a home, unless you're a multi-millionaire, that's going to be the biggest investment, right? And so
Absolutely.
there's a lot of people in the industry that don't have enough proper training. And then all of a sudden they're out there and they're redoing parts of the home and with little or no training. And so at the time, it was actually my ex-husband and I, we came up, we're like, been in the industry long enough. We actually wrote and came up with a training for the industry. It was in Dallas here back in 2011. It was the industry's first insurance restoration sales training. And we launched it here. And the basic need was behind that is to train people the proper way, from when you meet the policy holder for the first time to collecting final payment, a lot of steps in between.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So is that is that how SRC came about? Because you wanted more people to have training? Like what was?
Yes. And so, yeah, it was because when that started, we actually, it was funny because being in Dallas it was here at the time. I was like, gosh, there's a lot of roofing contractors here, right? So it was like target market, obviously, probably just going to be local people for training. But back then, nobody did training, right? Over 10 years ago. And so it was kind of a different shift. And a lot of people had a lot of thinking, oh, I've always done it this way. What else do I need to learn? And so after they started coming to trainings, they thought, wow, there's a lot of other things to to gain knowledge on, etc. And really, like after 4 months, there was people flying in from different parts of the United States. And I thought, wow, okay, so the need is a lot bigger than, maybe this area. And started to talk with contractors, on a daily basis. And I would just hear pain points and things they were struggling with. And they'd be reaching out of, well, how do I do this? I'm dealing with this claim and I've got, this, and this. And, after a short time, I was like, gosh, there is really so much stuff that needs to be addressed, right? So one of them, overhead and profit, that's a real, hot button topic in the industry.
Yep.
So started that in 2013, just really to help contractors get overhead and profit more consistently. It's been very successful. From there, I just saw the other needs of talking with contractors, and there were so many more things to be addressed. So I thought back in 2013, I was like, oh my gosh, we really need a conference for the insurance restoration industry. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start it. So it was, I did it back in 2013. It was a 1-day conference, had a few sponsors, had a few speakers. Next year I kept growing and growing it, a 2 to 3 day conference. And then, after some time bringing keynotes and different industry experts, several hundred people, it kept growing. And so it filled a need because nobody was doing it at the time. And now we have a lot of different ones and lots of different choices, right?
Yeah. So you've been doing this since 2013?
Yes.
Wow, that's a long time.
That's a really long time.
So basically, you're the OG, the original,
The OG.
gangster girl, the original woman that started all of this. Which I knew you've done it for a while, but I didn't know quite how long. And I was trying to for a while. I've been trying to do research.
10 years now.
To figure out how far back that goes, and that is amazing. And that says a lot about you because the consistency to do this year after year, and I'm assuming you've done this year after year ever since 2013, correct? Or was there a little, I guess maybe.
There was a little gap actually. So I started, it was IRC, Insurance Restoration Contractor Summit. I did that for several years, and I was actually doing that with my ex-husband at the time. So long story short, I was running the businesses. I was the majority owner, and there was some stuff happening, and ended up filing for divorce, and actually was in litigation for a couple of years. And, it was very, very one of the toughest things I've ever had to deal with in my life. And it's a little difficult to talk about it, but hey, it's the truth, right?
Yeah.
And so I spent a long time building a brand and had like over 20,000 Facebook followers and, lots of people coming to the event, and nobody else was doing it. I had to step back, and I couldn't do what I loved and my passion for 2017 and 2018. And that time other people stepped up, and there was other things going on in the industry. And I was like, well, I want to keep doing this. Right. Mm-hmm. So I ended up, I didn't want to fight anymore. And I gave him the company. So I said, okay, I'm going to start over from scratch. And so really what I did is I changed my name. I started with a new brand. From my followers at 20,000 plus, went down to 0 in a male-dominated industry. And so it was tough, but I was like, you know what? I really love helping people, and I love what I do, and I love bringing people together, and I didn't want to lose that. So it was really hard to start it back over. I mean, even at the time, it costs a lot of money to do these events. When you start to do something like this, you're looking at 6 figures before you ever start, and it's months out, right? Yeah. And so I rebranded. It was IRC, and then back in 2019, I opened it up again, SRC Summit, Storm Restoration Contractor Summit. 2 years before, I was like, oh gosh, when you go through that, you get some of your confidence just goes down. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm starting all over from scratch, and you're like, I don't want to not do this again. And I just said, okay, well, I worked so hard. Why would I stop? Right. He wasn't doing anything with it. So I remember going to the IRE, and I went by myself. I knew some other contractors, and I had friends there, but I just went up to all my past sponsors, and I was like, hey, I'm going to be rebranding. I'm doing something different. And you've been my past sponsor before. If I do this, are you with me? And I kept hearing yes, yes, yes. And so I rebranded, and I started it back up in 2019, and it's been consistent ever since.
That's awesome, man. That's like literally the epitome of let the work speaks for itself. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily, the name or the brand or anything like that. And Ty, you say all the time that your brand isn't like this. Yeah. This isn't your brand. The brand is the whispers behind the scenes. When someone's talking about you, what are they saying? That's the brand. And, just the fact that you were able to have the confidence to go through those trials and tribulations. Cause I'm sure getting back into the grind and doing all that stuff, starting from zero, man, like that takes a big hit to the ego right there, man.
Well, it was hard, yeah, and it was like I didn't have any family here at the time, and I'm complete like a single mom, so it was like, all right, you know what, I'm not gonna. There's no time to sleep. There's only time to get up and work and take care of my kiddo. So
Yeah.
No, that's good stuff.
And again, like I started to touch on earlier, it says a lot about you, April. I mean, to go through and experience what you've experienced, the success, right? And then to have like the carpet pulled out from under you, right? Whether it was self-inflicted or an uninvited, whatever, right? It shows a lot about you, the type of person that you are, to stand back up, dust yourself off, and fight your way through it, and literally start over from scratch. Like you said, you changed your name, you changed the brand, you had to recreate those followers. And it's like, sometimes, and I'm by no means am I a Bible bumper, but God sometimes does for us what we can't do for ourselves.
I agree.
And if we can all seriously just take a step back and look, it's like, he's always, it may not always be what I wanted, but he's always given me exactly what I needed. Right. Like, and that sometimes it's just that courage, right? Like sometimes I just need that strength to be able to like suit up and show up and just keep moving forward, even though sometimes I might take a half a step back, but he gives me that strength to just keep fighting. It says a lot about you. It says that you're scrappy, right? Like you're not going to give up. You're not going to quit. And to see you and watch you flourish today is amazing. And I would have never known that you've gone through that. I mean, because the way that you carry yourself as a professional woman in our industry, I can tell you're a scrapper, obviously, because I watched you, lead the entire show last year when Vic and I, or Glenn and I were down there in Texas last year. I saw you. You were running the shit. You were running the show, right? Like, so you're a boss. And sometimes, everybody wants to be a fucking boss till it's time to do leader shit. And you suited up and showed up, and you're doing some leader shit right now. So that's good stuff, April. Kudos.
Oh, thank you. Not easy at all.
No, if it was easy, everyone would do it, and I believe that we talked about this last week, and I'm not ever going to not talk about this, but I heard at a conference, people are like, why do you give away the secrets? It's like, well, because I know that you're not going to do what I'm telling you to do.
That's true.
You know what I mean? You're not going to put the work in. And even if you do, you're not going to outwork me. And, that's basically what you did. You bet on yourself, and you let the work speak for itself, and your sponsors see that. They saw that in the previous, the IRC that you had, they've seen the work that you put in. You built that from the ground up, and it's like, well, why wouldn't we do it?
Yeah.
So
for real.
Yeah, kudos to you, man.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about this book or two or three that you came out with. Like when did you decide to write a book, and what the hell was it about, or what is it about?
So let me see if I actually, hang on one second. I'm going to see if I have it right here. I didn't know we were going to be talking about books or whatever, but
yeah, I love books. I read.
It's funny because, when I was going through a really hard time in my life with the door, I mean, it went on for a very long time. It was bad. When I say bad, it was, we won't go there. But I had some great people reach out to me. So I had, back with IRC, I had Brian Tracy as one of my keynotes. And he had asked me once, he's like, hey, April, can I invite one of my good friends, Kyle Wilson, to your conference? And I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. If he's a friend of yours, he's a friend of mine. Well, Kyle Wilson started Jim Rohn International. And so he was, he started did all like his events, things like that. He was his business partner for 18 years. And so when I was going through stuff, Kyle actually reached out to me, and he's got different mastermind groups and, just asked me to be a part of it. But through him, I had met somebody before I started going through, all the divorce stuff. And I had an opportunity to write a book. It's something that I always wanted to do. And it was something I committed to do. And then all of a sudden I was going through hell in my life. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. Right. Well, the book I read was with a few people, but I co-authored, it's Rest If You Must, But Don't You Quit. And My gosh, I can tell you when I was going through that, I was like, wow, everything was coming up due. And I was like, I do want to quit, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to, because this is exactly what it's about. Right. So I finished that. There's a few good authors in there, and it became a #4 Amazon bestseller. But I had another opportunity when I was in Kyle Wilson's mastermind group. We were talking about how to like really, because he's authored so many books and published so many books. But we were talking about how to write your own book. So it was something I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do it. Just me, nobody else. And I still today, I haven't done the full thing. It's kind of in the works, but I wrote a book with my group, with Kyle, and it was life defining moments from bold thought leaders. And it's this one right here. There's some amazing people in it. And this got published, I believe it was like the first part of 2018, came in #1 Amazon bestseller.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And what was the name of it again?
Life defining moments from bold thought leaders.
Hey, can
Get it
someone
on
put that
Amazon.
in the comments for us?
Life defining thoughts with bold thought leaders.
No, it's a long title. Life defining moments from
Life
bold
defining moments.
And the first one is rest if you must, but don't you quit. We can all learn from that, right?
Yeah.
I'm a living example.
And that's good stuff right there. I mean, because that defines you, right? Like that
Mhm.
right there, that all of that, it may have been a long title, but that sums you up from what we can see from the outside looking in, April. That's what we see, exactly those titles right there. And that's how you were feeling at the time when you decided to write them. And
Yeah.
and that's, I can't say enough, because that's what I love about this show and this podcast, because we find out so much about the person and the fight and struggle, because I think social media has it all looking like glitz and glam, right?
Oh yeah, for sure it does.
And nobody knows about the struggle, the struggle and the struggle is real. Like the things that we go through to be, successful people, whether is successful in your household or in business. I mean, nobody knows that struggle, right? Especially nowadays, because all they're showing is the big insurance checks. I just closed another deal today, but they're not talking about how much they lost their ass on that because they never did a supplement or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the reality is that it's not as pretty as it is. And that's why we love the show, because we like to get down and dirty a little bit and talk about like the real deal, the real shit.
Yeah, I mean, even with my industry, like there's been people who come in and like, oh, they see like, wow, you have so many people there, and see like how everything comes together, and they don't see all the time and effort and the sleepless nights and what it takes to put together. And I know there's been some people who come in like, oh, wow, you did this much per ticket, I'm going to start my own. There's a lot of trial and error, and believe me, I think the seminar industry, honestly, is probably one of the toughest industries to be in.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
No doubt. I can believe that.
And you're probably in one of the toughest states to operate in, man. Texas is tough from what I hear. I mean, just because of, you got to think about it. Like we were touching on earlier, the no license. You're basically, what is it? The I forget what the per capita number is. I think Taggart was telling us when he was on here.
Oh, roofing contractors.
Yeah, roofing contractors, just in like per square mile or whatever it is.
Like a few thousand. Yeah. A lot of them though. I mean, there's a lot of them. What I typically see is there's a lot of contractors who work for another company, and they see, oh, just like the glitz and glam. Oh, they make this much money. They do this. I could do that. Let me start my own company. And they don't go to seminars, and they don't learn how to be a business owner. And then they struggle. They're doing less roofs. They're doing less work. They're making a little bit better profit, but they're struggling financially and mentally, right? So it really depends on the person, right? Just proper training helps each and every person. But yeah, there's literally thousands here, but a lot of them are very, very, very small companies.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you touched on, especially with your conference and stuff, that's, people that aren't attending or investing in themselves. And that's probably a lot of reason why people fail in the roofing industry, and why our statistic is so high of of failure in the roofing industries, because all they see is that glitz and that glam. They think, oh, it must be nice, and then I can make all this kind of money. But the deal is that you got to invest in yourself. You got to put a lot of time in. You got to put a lot of hours in, and this isn't it's not easy. And Chris touched on it, and that's why everybody can't do it, right? And then to host, okay, so you get out of the roofing industry, now you're hosting a freaking roofing conference where you saw and heard a lot of pain points from contractors and stuff. So to circle back to that, you started to touch on like some of the pain points that you were hearing from the roofing contractors. Let's elaborate a little more on it. Like what was some of the biggest things that you've heard or witnessed or saw, as far as roofing contractors go, as their struggles, you know what I mean? So what possessed you the most to want to do a roofing conference? What pain
Well,
point?
since I was in the industry, right? I mean, that's what I knew. And so I saw it just from the outside of like a training perspective. There really wasn't anything that was like step-by-step guide, right? So I was talking with them. I mean, back when that was over 10 years ago, a lot of people like complained about overrun profit and not getting paid on certain line items. And it's still some of this stuff today, right? We hear all of that. And so I would build things around that. I'm very big on, finding a problem and delivering a solution. And so that's where it really started. But there's just so many things. The industry has evolved so much. I mean, when I got into it, I learned how to measure a roof before Eagle View existed, right?
Yeah.
And now you can get into the industry and you can click a button on an app, and guess what? There you go. You have it right there. And so I've seen a lot of changes with technology. Everything has gotten better. With social media, we can come together. I mean, somebody who could be your competitor is now your friend, and they actually help each other. They didn't happen years ago. And so now we're like much better as a community. And I think people reach out and they like to go to events. They like to hear from speakers, but they like to network with their peers. Absolutely. Because you can always learn something from your peers, right? Mm-hmm. And so, we just like to, when I do these events, I really love working with the speakers. If you go to the speakers page, some of the top, roofing contractor owners are there sponsoring and speaking. And I love bringing them together because they've had, their levels of success and they want to give back. Mm-hmm. Right. And so when I started this, I was like, there's a lot of stuff going on in the industry. I want to bring integrity to the industry. I want to show people how to do this the right way so they can have longevity, so they could possibly even give their company to their children's children type of thing. Right. No shortcuts, no just, eating deductibles, et cetera, things like that. So that's really, why I started it. And, you got to go to stuff like this. You got to stay in tune with what's happening in the industry, especially with laws, when laws change. I mean, anybody can get in trouble if you don't know that something changed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to dive into the whole adding integrity back into the industry thing, but real quick, we're going to take a very short break here, and we are going to educate our guests about one of our sponsors, Hook Agency.
Roofers, you want at least 5 solid lead gen tactics building chemistry. Let's say you have door knocking, referral systems, job site branding, and you add in aggressive SEO, paid ads, and boom! Smells like more leads. HookAgency.com.
Yeah, the Hook Agency.
So that's how they make the cologne right there. Yeah. If you do not know, Tim Brown, he's probably one of the most outside the box thinkers on how to grasp people's attention. And he actually created a cologne that's called Smells Like More Leads, and apparently get more.
That's really good. It is good.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah. So Ty, who is Hook Agency?
The Hook Agency is a Google specialized marketing team that only works with contractors, offering SEOs, Google ad management, plus website design.
Yes, the GOAT of roofing SEOs.
Yep.
So April, I want to dive into the comment that you made about adding integrity and putting integrity back into the industry. How does one, in your words, how does someone put integrity back into an industry?
Well, I guess you could start by leading by example, right? And surround yourself with the people who believe in the same things that you do and work with those people. So as I mentioned, like with the speakers, they've had their levels of success they want to give back, right? And so, staying on top of, knowledge, reaching out. I always say, ask a lot of questions. If you're new to the industry, it's so easy now to reach out on social media, and you can ask somebody who's been in the industry for a long time a question. A lot of times they're going to take time and they're going to answer it for you. I think a lot of people are scared to do that. So with SRC, I'm able to bring those people together to where, even the speakers there, they're available, and people are shocked when they go up to them. They're like literally shocked. They're like, oh my gosh, they sat down with me and actually explained some stuff, and they took time for me. So yeah, like asking you shall receive, right?
Yeah.
So
what's the process that you go through on selecting your speakers? Like, is there like a criteria that you look for? Do you put like a poll out there? Do you ask like some, certain vendors who they would like to have there? Like, what's that process?
it's good. I know a lot of people in the industry. So a lot of friends, and usually what we do every year is we do poll contractors and ask them the top subjects that they'd like to learn more at SRC. So really design it, it's by contractors for contractors, right? And so we like to tackle those top subjects and really create a lot of value.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, that is good.
So do you have anything new happening this year that you haven't done before? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
I sure do. I'm so excited about this. I don't know if you've seen like online, if we were posted about doing like smoke claims. I'm kind of going back to what you said before, like, well, do you do anything else? Well, yes, I do. So there's hailstorms, there's all this other stuff. But the last year I've been focusing on smoke claims. So anything from fires, like all the fire restoration people that I know, they run to the scene of the fire, right? The actual structure. What we've been doing with the team is we're doing smoke claims. So it's smoke left behind, ash, soot, and smoke from fires, but it travels very, very far. So we're going to be presenting this at SRC. You won't find it anywhere else, but David Carlson, he's the co-founder of Eagle View. He came up with new technology. So you're going to hear it first at SRC, and everybody knows what hail maps are, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have smoke maps. So the smoke maps, we have different sensors all over the United States. We can pick up air quality, wind velocity. We can see where the smoke travels when it gets into structures. And so what a lot of people don't know is how unhealthy it is when smoke enters a building. There's ash, soot, and smoke, combustion byproducts. It's very, very bad for your health. So when that happens, it is an insurance claim. We've been doing lots of those, but we're using science and technology. So we know where it travels, even miles and miles away from a fire. So it's actually really cool. It's amazing. I can't wait to share about it at SRC.
Yeah. No, I like that. And why is that so important?
Well, it's important because we want to save lives, right? I mean, this gets really bad. It causes, at least it causes asthma. Well, that's bad, but I mean, it can cause premature death, like in a very bad instance. There's different chemicals that get released from fires. We're going to talk about it in depth at SRC. Nobody's doing this. Like they might do a structure that's really close by, but now with our maps, we're able to tell how far it is. So we've even done some claims in Colorado last year from the fire, the Marshall Fire, and it was 15 miles away. Most people would never touch anything like that, but the smoke map showed it where it was at. So now we're restoring homes back to pre-smoke condition. And so we're helping, restore health, et cetera, and it's making a difference. And so we're going to share about that. You might hear about this somewhere else, but nobody has like the technology or the system on how to do it. But we are using science, we're using technology. So we actually have like the hygienists who would go in and take different samples. We send it to a third-party lab. Lab reports back the levels, and if it's bad, then we have to return it, get it clean, do a few different things with the process, and it's an insurance claim.
Yeah. Okay. So basically chasing smoke. So like in ash and things like that. You guys did talk about it briefly last year, and it really got my wheels turning, but I forgot about it up until this point. So I mean, tell us more like the importance and why, like when I said, like, why is it important? So like, let's say there's an apartment building that's 3 blocks down, right? And it's nothing but like windows, and they have the real deep windowsills. Why is it important to go and test those windowsills where soot and smoke or vinyl siding, right? Like, because like plumbing and stuff needs to be replaced in fire restoration in a home, right? So explain to us why all of these things are so important. Why is this so important?
Well, yeah, the vents suck it in too. So it's not like you have cracks in your windows a lot. windows get replaced from time to time. It comes in through there, it comes in different vents. A lot of times you use some of your attic. It has so many different vents in there. It gets into the insulation. It keeps breathing, through the pores. So a lot of times you have to take the insulation out, and then the wood up there, it kind of breathes. You have to re-encapsulate it and clean all the pipe, the duct work out, and especially, clean the walls or things like that. It's very easy to recontaminate. And so doing it the right way is very important. What we've seen from other insurance claims, especially in Colorado, they would have somebody like, Molly maids come out and just they pay for somebody to wash it and then come back out, and it's not clean at all. Or even some other restoration services that specialize in that, we found several that did not clean it properly when we went back to test. And so those are just different things that cause we're going to talk about all the health issues and things that happen if you don't do that properly at SRC, but it's a really big deal, and people should be more concerned about that.
It's very eye-opening. I mean, it really is. It really is. So you are gonna have a course. Are you gonna go beyond SRC? Is there like a course that somebody can sign up to figure out and learn how, what the process is to go in and correct these issues?
Yeah, we have a full course, and we're going to be launching SRC, but we're going to do like the first real training. Haven't picked down the date yet. It's probably maybe the last week of March or first week in April, but that date will be set before SRC. And we're going to train contractors on our system and our process of actually doing these claims.
Wow, that's very cool. That's very cool. No, because nobody really thinks about that. Like if we had a situation where we did a roof for a gentleman, and literally like within 24 hours, the neighbor's house caught on fire.
Oh gosh.
And melted the roof that we just installed, the siding, the soffit, the fascia. And so, the insurance adjuster came out, he's looking at the roof. He doesn't really see anything wrong until you start seeing all of these granules, right? That are because it prematured the life expectancy of the shingles. Like literally the granules were falling off the roof. And then my mention to them is with the soffit being as melted as it was, obviously the intake of that smoke was going and filtering up through the home. So I guess in that particular situation, could you arm me with some more ammo? Not necessarily ammo like I'm trying to battle the insurance company, but the more concerned out of the safety and health of our homeowner, because he's an elderly guy, he's older, Vietnam vet, retired. I was more concerned for his health. So what would you say for me to be able to convince the insurance company? Like, what should I have looked for? What more should I have said to them?
There's different things you should look for. I mean, obviously, like around the windows, the outside. A lot of times, it's that close. It's gonna melt stuff on the outside. The attic, usually, it sucks it right into there. You can see all the ash, soot, and smoke. It sits in the windowsills. It sits in different little crevices around the fencing, around the just outside of just really close to the house, around the bushes, things like that. But inside, you're going to be able to see it and smell it, especially if it was that close. And so really, I'd probably get somebody in there with it being that close, you get a hygienist to go in and do a few different swabs and send you a lab.
Okay.
And so you can test to the levels there. And, we say in our quote, we don't guess, we test, right? And so you can't argue with science. That's the thing. If you have a hail hit on your roof, it can be subjective, right? You can go up there and argue with an insurance adjuster all day. What is it? Is it a blister? Is it old? Is it new? Nope, you did that. It's just, it becomes subjective sometimes, even though we know what it is, right? But with this, it's like we can actually see, wow, we have these different levels in your home. So it has to be put back to I call it pre-smoke condition. Maybe it's a new term that's never been used before, but that's what we've been doing, returning, structures, homes back to pre-smoke condition.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're kind of heading the forefront into something that isn't even really there yet. I mean, this is the first time I've ever really heard of it. And
this is what we looked at. We're like, I think what we did, like with Dave Carlson and a few other people, like some of our PAs that we work with, the team, it's like, there's really been a new industry created. It's huge. I mean, there's like 4.2 million structures over the last 10 years that have been affected by smoke, soot, and ash. And over the last couple of years with all the fires, there's been a lot more. So when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, this is actually way bigger than hail.
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's good.
I'm sure the insurance companies are not happy to hear about this.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I didn't want to say that out loud, but that's exactly
Dude,
what
I'll
I was
say
thinking.
that shit, man. I bet someone there somewhere
Yeah.
is like, man, she's on to something here. That sucks.
So
Yeah.
a hygienist. Let's go back. What exactly is a hygienist?
A licensed hygienist, they go in, they do it with a lot of storms too. Like when it comes to mold, a lot of companies use like a hygienist to go in and determine that, to show the insurance companies, hey, there's certain levels, right? So we've done that with the ash, soot, and smoke. And so
Okay.
there's different chemicals. I don't want to spoil it all here, but there's different ones out there that most people aren't testing for. And it's pretty much, there's some bad ones to, if you find just a little tiny bit of it, it's so toxic that you have to rip everything down to the studs.
Wow. Could you imagine if we
That's
convinced
crazy,
that
man.
adjuster that day that like there was so much damage? I mean, literally, it was a driveway apart. So, however wide our friend's driveway was away from their garage that caught on fire. I mean, it was amazing. Like you could see
the soffit looks like icicles. Like, it's like
you could see black
it's
soot
bad.
up on his rafters in his attic space.
Oh, yeah.
And that was one of the first things that I brought to the adjuster's attention. Like, what about this stuff that's in his attic space? Like all this black soot and stuff. I really wish I would have been armed back then, more educated on how to help our friend out with his roof and the damage.
Yeah, and you get the roof spot on this too, especially like with tile, because it gets underneath there and it's more expensive to like lift it up, replace it, right? I mean, it's better just to replace the whole thing. And so we're getting like 50% of the roof spot just with tile alone. So
That's
crazy,
amazing.
Man. That's crazy. You're definitely onto something. Kudos to you for being able to think outside the box.
It's not just me. I mean, this is Dave Carlson. This is several other people, but we've been working on this. It's a team thing and really honed in on the last, several months. And, Dave's going to present it. He's got new technology. He's brilliant. And so this is something you're not going to see anywhere else.
Yeah. No,
that's awesome.
No, that's great. And I can't wait to experience this down in Texas at the end of the month. And I know Glenn's looking forward to it as well. And our team is looking forward to it as well. So what a great episode.
Yeah.
I mean, kudos to you for everything you've gone through, where you're at today. Such an awesome story. You're such a fighter. And kudos to your recent engagement, I guess.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. April, before we wrap up here, I hit every guest with a specific question, and I'm not going to let you get away without answering it.
Okay.
So being successful and going through all the things that you go through, I mean, you probably could take a step back from the conference and allow, teach someone or train someone to run it and go through all the day-to-day activities for you and just kind of relax and, do your thing. What keeps you motivated to continue to suit up and show up and not only that, but put your best foot forward, put your best energy and effort into everything? Like, what is that motivating tool that you have?
Well, just like what Ty said earlier, I did have opportunities to thank him for giving me the feedback of what you learned at SRC, and you've been in the industry for a very long time. So it shows a lot of the value and the information that you get there and the knowledge. And I do hear that from several contractors, whether they've been in business for a couple of years or 25 plus years. And so for me to keep going and doing this, it's the people that by doing this that I'm able to help and to hear their success stories. And I love it. I love hearing that. And it's great to just help people do better, not only in their business, but in their personal lives too. So we're big on like personal development. I usually have people in, not like the motivator people, but actual, like, how can you be better as a person? Because that resonates into your business, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. This was such a great episode.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Good stuff for sure.
Thank you for taking time out of your life, your day, to spend it with us for the past 48 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
So you almost made it an hour, April, and you didn't think you could do that. So you for that.
Yeah.
Like, people want to watch for an hour.
Yeah, people definitely watch for an hour.
Yeah.
And we honestly forgot like the most important part here. Do you want to
Yes.
tell everyone when the summit is?
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Yes. Okay. So the way that we have it laid out is January 29th. For most people, that's going to be a travel day because we're opening up the doors at 2:30 that day for vendors. So it's going to be one-on-one. Vendors get to meet attendees get to meet vendors. You get to meet people right before the main event happens. That's followed by a welcome mixer for everybody there. The only thing that's happening earlier that day is I'm doing a women's networking lunch at 12:15. But everything else opens at 2:30. So Monday, Tuesday is the main event. So every speaker that you see on srcsummit.com speakers page, that's main stage event with, industry expert speakers, whether they're individual or on the panels. And then Wednesday, February 1st is implementation day. So it's a great day to hone in on your skills. Tons of different specialized breakout sessions, workshops, one day to put it all together and take notes and get ready to get back and start implementing. One thing I'd like to say about the conference too is like when you go and you want to get the best experience, you mentioned you took notes, Ty. That's awesome, right? You've been in the industry for a long time. Most people think you don't need to take notes. You know everything, right? But you took notes and you came back and you implemented. That's what you have to do is you have to be intentional to say, I want to learn so many different things. I'm going to learn from the speaker. Who else do I want to meet? What vendors do I want to meet? What speakers do I want to meet? I've got networking events each night. So as long as people are intentional and you get out what you put into it, right? And so this year I've created more networking opportunities. So Sunday evening, networking mixer. Monday after the main event, we're going right around the corner. I rented out the entire facility, more networking, foods, drinks. And then Tuesday evening to wrap up the last night of the event, we are going to do a comedy night. And so I don't know if you guys are fans of comedy, but I like to laugh. And I was like, I want to try something a little bit different this year. So I'm bringing in Reno Collier from the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. He opened for Larry the Cable Guy, did all that fun stuff. So he's going to be the stand-up for the evening.
Awesome.
Very cool.
That's really cool.
Everybody's invited to that. And then, of course, February 1st is the last day with breakouts. So it's going to be a jam-packed event, lots of knowledge, lots of great things, fun, networking.
Yeah, for sure. And Behind the Toolbelt will be there along with Lead Scout.
I'm excited to have you guys. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it will be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it, man. It's my favorite show.
Well, thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yep.
So Behind the Toolbelt family, TC Backer family, thank you guys for tuning in, for showing support to April here. We see you guys out there, man. All the OGs that watch every single week. We see you guys. If you guys have not done so already, please hop over to the YouTube page Behind the Toolbelt. Give that a subscription. That's including you, April. Make sure you hop over there and give that a subscription. And make sure you guys hop over to the SRC Summit Facebook page and give that a like and a share. Helps the algorithms, and we're all about algorithms, right?
Yes,
we're all about that shit.
Yep.
And get your tickets to SRC. You don't want to miss it this year.
Yes, get your tickets. How do they get tickets, April?
srcsummit.com, and there's little buttons everywhere that say tickets. So there's actually 3 different ones. There's different packages. There's general admission, there's VIP, and there's most exclusive VIP platinum.
Awesome.
Either way, just be there.
Yes. And everyone enjoy the rest of your week. We will see you guys next Wednesday for episode 159. April, thank you again for your time. We made
and I will see you guys at SRC Summit.
Yep.
See you guys. Have a great night.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye.